In this article, it says here, genetics, the science and business of genetic ancestry testing. All right, Deborah A. Bolnick and all these scientists, professors, all right, that contributed to this. Consumers often purchase these tests to learn about their race or ethnicity, but there is no clear-cut connection between an individual's DNA and his or her racial or ethnic affiliation. Again, there is no clear-cut connection between an individual's DNA and his or her racial or ethnic affiliation. Many genetic ancestry tests also claim to tell consumers where their ancestral lineage originated. All right, again, they claim, all right, and the social group to which their ancestors belong. However, present-day patterns of residence are rarely identical to what existed in the past, and social groups have changed over time in name and composition. Databases of present-day samples may therefore provide false leads. Thus, these tests should not be seen as determining the race or ethnicity of a test taker. They cannot pinpoint the place of origin or social affiliation of even one ancestor with exact certainty. They cannot pinpoint the place of origin or social affiliation of even one ancestor with exact certainty.
In the year 2000, a young black geneticist named Dr. Rick Kittles, who at the time was teaching at Howard University, sent me a letter. He's now at the University of Chicago Medical School. And he said that he was asking various African-American men if they would submit themselves to this new test. And through this test, he could trace on your mother's line where in Africa you were from. Man, that was some serious stuff. And I said, yeah, I called him right away. And I said, definitely. How badly do I want to know where I'm from in Africa? But I really wanted to know. I'd wanted to know since I was 9 years old. So, let's go for it. I said, Rick, what's up, man? Where am I from in Africa? Where are my people? I want to jump on a plane and go. I thought I'd buy some land, get a fine little African sister, to hook up. I was single at the time, don't get me wrong. I'm still single. Well. So he said, well, we had to run, your results were anomalous. And we had to run them many times. But we finally have figured out where you're from. You are descended on your mother's side from the Nubian people. Now, all African Americans, not all African Americans, but many African Americans want to be descended from one or two ethnic groups. Either the Zulu, because the Chaka Zulu, and the Zulu kicked the English in the Boer Wars, right? Until they finally were overcome. But you want to be Zulu, or you want to be Nubian. Who were the Nubians? The Nubians were the black pharaohs. And so a Nubian, and all these people wanted to be Nubians, descended from the black pharaohs. So I called Malefi first thing. I said, Malefi, I just got my results back. I am a Nubian. Where are you from? I am the true African prince. My friend Anthony Appiah, whose uncle was the Asantehene, the king of the Asante people. When Rick Kittle sent me a certificate announcing I was Nubian, Anthony Appiah looked at it and said, what a ton of rubbish. Now, why would he say that? Well, there's a slight problem with being either Zulu or Nubian if you're African American. You know what the problem is? None of our ancestors who came here in slavery came from South Africa, the Zulu people, or from Nubia. None, zero. There's a slight problem with being either Zulu or Nubian if you're African American. You know what the problem is? None of our ancestors who came here in slavery came from South Africa, the Zulu people, or from Nubia. None, zero. When Oprah was finally in the first series, and we gave her DNA test, basically the next day she went to South Africa to announce that she was opening what became the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy. She was in an auditorium like 75,000 people or something, and she announced that she just had the test and that she was Zulu. So it broke on CNN. I was sitting in my living room minding my own business and said, Oprah Winfrey's a Zulu. So I called Rick Kittles, and I said, Rick, did you tell Oprah she was a Zulu? He goes, no, man, she made that up herself. It's a true story. It's a true story. I would lie to make you laugh, but I'm telling you a true story. So I said, Rick, are you in your lab? He said, yeah. I said, is anybody there? He said, no. I said, when the results come in, make her Zulu, man. You know? I said, you back there making it up anyway. I said, you back there making it up anyway. Nobody believe you can take some spit and figure out a tribe? What are you, crazy? Nobody believe you can take some spit and figure out a tribe? What are you, crazy? Nobody believe you can take some spit and figure out a tribe? What are you, crazy?
But the problem is, Sierra Leone wasn't the only answer Vi got. A company called Relative Genetics found a match to a single person in the Wobi tribe in the Ivory Coast.
Different?
Different.
Now, I got all excited about that, and this is different? Now, how could that happen?
Then a third company, Trace Genetics. Your particular sequence matches sequences reported among multiple Mendanka individuals in Senegal.
What's up with this?
And Family Tree DNA, the company that linked Vi with Marion in the first place, came up with a whole list of matches. This goes on and on.
My goodness.
So what do we know about Vi's ancestry? The DNA does indicate that she has distant relatives in the Mende tribe, but she also has relatives in all those other tribes. So no one can say for sure where Vi's maternal ancestor actually came from.
Or DNA kits called into question. They are the kind advertised on TV claiming to trace your ancestry. A woman says she used 2 different popular services to trace her family history and got wildly different results. Fox 32's Tia Ewing reports.
And I was shocked.
Smith's breakdown from Ancestry showed 97% European and 2% Asian.
I'm a black girl. I am not a Jewish white lady. I'm black. My parents were black.
She contacted Ancestry with questions, but says a rep told her the results are accurate.
She told me there was no way they could have made an error.
Smith decided to try again, but this time she submitted a DNA to 23andMe.
And the results were very different, but they were not a surprise to me.
The 23andMe findings showed 70% African for Smith, after Ancestry's findings showed none.
Both kits can't be right. One of them has to be wrong.
These DNA tests for ethnicity are entertainment value only. Entertainment value only. Entertainment value only. Entertainment value only.
William Gilliland is a biology professor at DePaul. He says DNA kits can be great for connecting family members and finding relatives, but the science for ethnicity testing isn't as concrete.
There's nothing that confident for ethnicity. There's no diagnostic nucleotide. You can say this person is from Europe, this person's from Africa.
It's exciting to make discoveries like this, but if they're not true, it's heartbreaking.
When I handed Vi the certificate, she got extremely emotional about it. She wept, and it meant so very much.
People want to believe.
They want to believe they've gotten an answer.
And it's not fair of us to let them believe that we're giving them certain answers, because scientifically, we just can't.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest,
exclude you. He included you.
but we have the largest set of sequences from Africa, and so
Yeah,
with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns.
About yourself.
Our DNA.
And that's the rub. This business of genetic genealogy is fraught with limitations. For one thing, it can only provide information about a tiny fraction of our ancestry. Because we get half our DNA from our mothers and half from our fathers, almost all of our DNA gets shuffled and remixed every generation, making it impossible to trace what comes from whom. There are just 2 bits of DNA that remain pure: the Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son, and something called mitochondrial DNA, which passes unchanged from mother to child. Hank Greeley, a law professor at Stanford University, has studied this new field. He worries that people don't realize just how many ancestors they actually have.
8 generations ago, both you and I had 256 great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents.
Wait, you're saying that if you go back 8 generations, we have 256 great-great-great-grandparents?
Yes, it doubles every generation. So you've got 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and it adds up fast. It adds up so fast, in fact, that if you go back 20 generations, you've got over 1 million grandparents.
1,048,576 to be exact. And in each generation, DNA testing can provide information about only 2 of them.
So you could be Peruvian on your mother's 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 side, Japanese on your father's 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 side, Swedish on everything else.
And you'll never know.
And you'll never know the Swedish from the Y chromosome or the mitochondrial DNA.
Now, you've looked at several of these companies that are doing these tests.
Yes.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No, I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But, businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is.
We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
It's less than 0.1%.
Amount.
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 It's less than 0.1%.
and that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.